This is the good life. I'm the king of games, baby. They got Pacman fever driving them crazy, and it's driving me to the bank. Where did it all go wrong?
When are you gonna get out of here? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going on to Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures.
Alright, well, I'm gonna head out and wait for you to be done with that gameplay.
Alright. Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures, also known as Hello Pac-Man in Japan, was a game created in 1994 for the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. In this game, you play as Pac-Man.
What the hell are you doing here? He's recording.
Hey, don't want to come in there. I mean, I heard him talking about me. I just want to meet him.
What a shock there. And in this game, you have to go around and pretty much just do a bunch of random tasks to help out people. Yeah, Gon is running around a fun maze, being chased by those goofy ghosts and all that other stuff that we all actually like. No. This time, we're handling something different. As shown here in this tutorial, in this game, you have to go around and show Pac-Man where to go. You do this by making him look in places. You can make him look up, down, left, right, and you can also shoot stuff. So it's more of a point-and-click adventure game rather than a maze game. And in this tutorial, you get to see plenty of things that you can do. You can shoot the cap off of Pac-Man's chimney. You can shoot this turbine thing. I wonder what that does. Oh my god, I'm gonna die! And you get to shoot power pellets out of the tree. And for some odd reason, you only get 3 power pellets. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the original game had 4 power pellets, 1 in each corner. For some odd reason, I can only hold 3, so I don't really get why that's so. And that leads to its own particular brand of problems, but we'll get to them when we get to that. So far, the graphics are actually quite beautiful. I mean, if there's one thing I can definitely give this game, is that it looks nice. It has a cartoonish vibe to it, like as if you're playing an interactive cartoon, something like, I don't know, weird example, but something that Bubsy tried to pull off. That was a really popular thing, was to have these interactive, cartoonish platformers. So that way it felt more like you're playing a show rather than having to watch it. But now let's move on to our first mission. Okay, so mission 1 requires us to help out baby Pac-Man. Why? Because we're out of milk. Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures. Go on many harrowing adventures, like going to the grocery store to get some milk. Actually, with current events, that's actually quite a heroic mission, actually. I mean, I don't really get why we have to go and get milk. I mean, the missus is standing right here, and she can do the simple act of, well, you know. Okay, I'm telling y'all that she needs to whip out her pack tits. So you go off to go and get your kids some milk, and this is where we get to finally start, doing the core essentials of the game. Once you get Pac-Man on the move, you gotta get him across this farmer, who will scold him if he stands there for too long. So to do that, you assassinate the bastard by shooting a bale of hay on top of his head. Then you see the cow with its unusual mooing. But because of the crappy sound on the Sega Genesis, it just sounds like the cow is giving us a good fart. So, how do we get this milk bottle down? It's too high up, and shooting the cow only gets Pacman scared, causing him to run away. Well, to do that, you gotta shoot this crow, who just conveniently lands on this power line. Once you get the bottle, then Pacman proceeds to milk the cow and... Wait, what? Wait a minute, he milks the cow and gives that milk to the baby? It's not even pasteurized! Pacman, you're an awful father! You have issues, man. I swear to God. But while we're on the subject, Mission 1 also gives you a taste of what you're going to be dealing with throughout the game. For you see, it's not as simple as moving left and right. Because it's a point-and-click adventure and you have to control Pacman by making him look in directions and by shooting certain objects to cause certain things to happen, it causes the controls to be a very unique brand of special. Which is just my way of saying that it's shit, because you see, here's the problem. I want Pacman to do a certain task. I want Pacman to move a certain direction at a certain time. With these delays that the game is forced to deal with because of the nature of a point-and-click adventure, it causes Pacman to be very awkward to control. It's not as apparent now, and the first mission admittedly is incredibly simple. But you just watch, and I guarantee you'll see what I mean. The other thing I can at least also somewhat compliment the game on is its music. I'm not too big on how the tracks are a little bit too repetitious, but honestly, I have to admit, it has a fair, light, and bouncy tone to it, perfectly fitting this weird cartoonish world that we're having to travel with Pacman through. It fits it, though my problem is that it gets a little bit too annoying after a while. And as for sound effects, well, there are some sound effects that don't work, like I mentioned the cow, but I don't know, it's not as good as the Super Nintendo version. The Super Nintendo version has many sound enhancements, what a shock, because, Super Nintendo is far superior than Genesis in about every way, sorry Sega fans. And one thing I simply cannot get over is the scream. Okay, in the Super Nintendo version it sounded like this, whereas in the Genesis version it sounds like this. Now, as for what the scream reminds me of, I don't know, you can either pick this or this. Alright, mission 2. We gotta go get, fresh mountain flowers? Who's this bitch? Wait a minute, why can't I just go to a store and go get regular flowers? Is she really such a bitch that I have to go and climb a mountain just to go get her some fresh mountain flowers? She better be damn appreciative of this flower. Or so help me God, I will cram this flower down her fucking throat. This is gonna be foreshadowing. So first you gotta go on this transit system to get all the way from ground level to the mountain. But that's not all. Then you gotta go around and watch out for this big boulder, otherwise Pacman's gonna get the hell crushed out of him. And then comes this. Okay. Now, there are two ways you can go about it. One way that I've seen is where you gotta ride a minecart. But let's face it, we're gonna do this the other way. The way that's most famous. Now this must be a great section, right? I mean, after all, it's advertised on the front of the box, on the cartridge. It's Pacman flying on a hang glider. So it must at least be a fun mission. Oh, and it's a side-scroller? Cool. Maybe it'll be kind of like a classic 2D shooter. Sure, it's not Pacman, but at least it could be fun, right? No, it of course isn't fun. No, instead you have to press a button to make him go higher, and you have to shoot him to make him go lower. Just what I want! Delay! When I have to dodge a bunch of shit.
Haha!
Meanwhile, the ghost monsters try to attack you. This time actually posing a threat. Because I don't understand why this ghost witch got so mad at them before for messing up. Is it because of the tutorial? Or is it because I managed to get myself some milk for my kid? I don't know. So, you gotta go through the air, and once you get to the final spot, then you have to go and get this flower. Now, this part of the game. Remember what I mentioned earlier about how you have to have Pacman do certain things? Well, he also has to be in certain moods. You see, in the beginning of the game, Pacman tells you that he has to be in a good mood in order for him to listen to you, because if he's in a bad mood, he's not going to listen to you too much. Now, that doesn't sound so bad up until you get to this point. You see, at this point, I didn't have any power pellets, so I couldn't cheer him up. Thus, in turn, when it came time for him to finally get the mountain flower, he got the flower, but then refused to grab these vines, which activate certain things, also known as the only way out of this. I got stuck here for an hour, just trying to see if there was any other way I can go about it, without having to reset the game. And I don't know if I'm missing something, but it seems like I had no other option. I had to reset the game. When your gamer has to reset the game just because of a fundamental flaw to the core mechanic of your game, that is inexcusable. Heck, not even Pacman likes it. Look at this guy. He looks depressed. Pacman, don't jump. Don't jump, Pacman. You have a wife and kid back at home. Please, you have 2 kids at home. Oh, please, Pacman, don't do it. Well, he's dead. So after I reset it and implemented a password, now we can get back to here, and now he's in a better mood. We get the flower and we escape. Good, grand, wonderful. And that's the other problem. You have to have power pellets in order to cheer him up, as well as turn him into Super Pacman. But you best make sure you have some, because later on, I ended up getting stuck for a long time just because I had to go back and forth just to go get power pellets. That should not be a problem. In my thoughts, you should have power pellets be scattered around the levels. It's scattered throughout the world, but it seems like, from what I found, the only place that has power pellets is Pacman's home. The only other thing in these trees are apples and... What the hell is this fruit? Pacman, are you right? Oh my god, he's being possessed! Pacman? Are you okay? You look high. Like, higher than the frickin' clouds. What the hell's wrong with you? Oh, damn! He's a fucking evil son of a bitch now! I like this Pacman! This Pacman's cool! Sadly, you can't go too far with it, because I was really wanting to take him back to his house with this mood. I wonder how that would be.
Get off! Baby, go! Go, baby! Go!
Okay, then there's mission 3 where you gotta get a guitar back for your son because apparently the ghost stole it. But, okay, this guy right here, these are the ghosts. They're in disguise. You have to get them out. But I couldn't seem to figure out how. I don't know if I was doing something wrong. Maybe I'm just an idiot. I don't know. Nonetheless, you're not missing out on much else. You see, after this, the ghost witch gets pissed off and says, Pacman, I'm done with your meddling. Because, you know, you grabbed milk, a flower, and got your son's guitar back. Truly a rebellious spirit we have here. And you gotta go down to the ghost witch's lair.
You're gonna let me in that room so I can guest star and get my fame back.
Or what?
Or else these are gonna hit you, and you won't have a rather nice nap.
Well, I can give you a nap of eternity. You want to start running. What a fucking clown. This ain't even loaded.
In order to access her place, you need to have 3 cards. These cards were scattered throughout the level and you had to find them. But because I didn't do that, and because I'm not in the mood to stick with this game any longer, because of how awful it is, I am going to merely put in a password and go fight the witch. To get to the witch, you have to clog up a fire hydrant, which causes a sewer cap to blow up. And you have to go down into the sewer, go around, and get into the ghost witch's ghost factory. Here, you get to see all kinds of shit. Like, for example, you get to see some what could be interesting platforming if you, of course, were in control of any of it. You get to see Pacman turn into a yellow cum rag or condom, whatever the hell you want to call it, and him getting taken away by a ghost because they're about to go have some ghost babies. Finally, enter the witch's lair, the final place. And what's going on in here? You gotta fight the gum monster. Because source material? Seriously, when was this ever foreshadowed? I understand that throughout the game you're able to talk to people through some means, but I never really talked to anybody, so I don't know if they were alluding to something, like maybe people were complaining that their gum was going missing or something like that. But when was this alluded to? And also, that G down there does not look like a G. That looks like a C, and I only can now think that Pacman's fighting a cum monster, and that's disgusting. So, you throw a power pellet at him, he turns into Super Pacman, and while he's going around eating the ghosts to make sure they stop adding gum to the monster, you gotta also shoot the monster's head. The witch has an aneurysm in the background, you defeat the gum monster, Pacman saves the day, and that's it.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Now that we got all that out of the way, though, I have to say, it doesn't seem like it's that bad. Hell, Mylon's Secret Castle seems worse than this because with Mylon's Secret Castle, everything was obscure and hidden. But here's the thing. With Mylon's Secret Castle, if you find out where everything is, I think that maybe some people could have a relatively fun time with it. It's not what I would consider a great game, but I can at least know that there are some people out there who get some semblance of enjoyment out of this game. With Pac-Man 2 The New Adventures, it's so far away from Pac-Man that at one point I got so bored, I ran off to the arcade in this game and got to play the original Pac-Man, which, wait, you can get power pellets from that? Well, that's stupid. Yeah, I know I just complained that, you had to get power pellets from trees, and only one tree at Pac-Man's house, but at the same time, it seems like the only way to get power pellets in the arcade game is if you beat the high score. That's still stupid to me. Just make them out in the open like they are with the tree everywhere around the place. Jesus. But anyways, so the whole game is a fucking slog to get through. I've seen some people clear this game in just a few measly minutes. It took me a few hours just to get through the game. And it wasn't going through all these challenges. The challenges themselves were actually really simple once Pac-Man was in the right mood and everything. But because he wasn't always in the right mood, and because he was always going in the directions I didn't want him to go to, or because there was always something that was going to randomly happen, like this cat, for some odd reason Pac-Man gets so triggered because the cat steals his food, so he ends up getting his ass kicked by it. And he constantly kept doing that until I did something to him, by shooting him, that is. You gotta constantly just sit there and deal with this kind of nonsense while you're just trying to play the game. And why is this guy smiling like that? Don't make me call the police on you. You disgust me. But there's just nothing in this game that makes me want to go back to it. Every moment of this game is just a slog. There are so many better point-and-click adventure games. You can have your point-and-click adventure games be something that's very mature, or even something as childlike as, I don't know, Pajama Sam. Those are still fun games that you could have a great time with. And because they're their own ideas, they decided to build the entire game around those ideas, exploring a new world that you never got to see, while at the same time letting you have fun with it. With Pac-Man 2, you take a character who's best known for running around a maze eating dots, and you decide to give him this point-and-click adventure, which, while looking nice and at times sounding nice, it gets very repetitious, very exaggerated, very bloated, and boring as the adventure goes on. Nothing in this game really leaves an impact. It's all just a bunch of bland, flavorless mush. Something that I don't really think I'm ever gonna go back to. Which sucks to say about Pac-Man, because I like Pac-Man. Heck, it's funny to think that Pac-Man was like one of the first games I ever talked about on here. Yeah, sure, it was also a somewhat negative review, where I reviewed the Atari game. But I can at least say this, technically speaking, I find the Atari game to be a better experience because, in the end, it's still Pac-Man. You're running around a maze, eating stuff, fighting ghosts, and eating power pellets to fight said ghosts. Don't get me wrong, it's not a great version, but at least it still keeps the core mechanics and the core idea of the game. The only way you're playing the original version of this game is, well, if you go to the arcade. There's also a way to be able to play Ms. Pac-Man or Pac-Man Jr., depending on which version you have. The Super Nintendo version has one version, the Genesis version has another. You gotta go around and collect cartridges for it. I didn't care, because I don't really want to spend any more time with this game. It's so awful that I just don't want it around me anymore. I'm done with Pac-Man 2 The New Adventures. He hands you the receipt so you can go return the game. I'm done with this game. That's it.
Hang in there, Squidward. It's all part of the job.
Get back here, you cousin!
Hey!
Hey, what's all this about?
This motherfucker's trying to get into your review!
Is that true?
Yeah, well, I just heard someone talking about me, and I haven't been talked about in so long since Pacman Fever. I just thought meeting someone that liked me for once would be uplifting.
I understand your point of view. Right now, I just finished a review of Pac-Man 2 The New Adventures for Sega Genesis.
Oh, Pac-Man 2 The New Adventures? Oh, I love acting in that game. It's like you're being exactly who I really am.
Now, do you regret letting him in?
Oh, do you regret letting me in? That game's amazing.